Two balls and a strike to count on Taylor. Reyes fires, swinging a drive, deep left field. It's his way back. Walk him off.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to DodgerHeads, presented by DodgerBlue.com. My name is Scott Geirman, senior writer, Dodger Blue. Here, my good buddy Blake Williams. Happy Sunday, man. How we doing?
Doing pretty good. It was another exciting game. Didn't go so great to start with, but, you know, they came through at the end, and that's all that really matters. So, yeah, it's been good.
Yeah. Dodgers walk this off. So a ton to get into. Welcoming you guys. Appreciate you all joining us a little bit earlier on this Sunday. It's going to be a great show. We got a lot for you. We're going to do some recap, some preview, talk about some optimism here. Tony Gonsolin, hopefully coming back, can be an option. We'll get into it. Initial thoughts on the game today, Blake. You know, we saw the heroics at the end there. Offense slow to start, a lot of frustrating at-bats, frustrating outcomes with runners in scoring position. Ohtani, Mookie Betts lead the way in the ninth. Aside from that, what do you like?
Yeah, the game was kind of terrible until it wasn't. Sure, it was very frustrating for most people watching for most of the game. Then, of course, they had that seventh inning where they kind of put the game close. And then, of course, the ninth inning there where they actually completed the comeback. So it was frustrating throughout most of the game. I think they were 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position up to that point, and they had 3 double plays hit into. Like, the pitching, Yamamoto wasn't his best, but overall it was a solid day for the staff. So it was a very mixed bag, but it ended up being pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Yamamoto starts this one off there. We'll dive way deeper into him. You know, looking at the offense as a whole, going through it, it was a frustrating one. I see people in chat, you know, you guys in the pre-show talking about it, that looking ahead towards the postseason, really having to rely on this offense. And I would say that, unfortunately, we saw some points with runners in scoring position, bases loaded spots there that, you know, kind of irked me a little bit. You know, Freddie Freeman, multiple spots there, multiple double plays. So I would say early on in the game, frustrating stuff there. But when the moment called for it, the big swings had to happen. The big swings happened. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. I know I love Steven Nelson's calls today in that ninth inning. It's some iconic stuff. Mookie Betts' first walk-off home run as a Dodger. Kind of crazy to think about, right?
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that too. I feel like he would have had more, but, you know, I guess they've won a lot and haven't needed to be in those positions. And it's always kind of rare when the specific player comes up at the spot you need them to come up. So, yeah, I guess it kind of makes some sense, but a little surprising still.
Sure. So we'll do the recap on looking around the division here. Dodgers remain 3 games up. I know I want to talk about the NL West race here. I know right before we, you know, kind of recap the game, just so we can bring people up to speed here. Dodgers are going to stay 3 games ahead of the San Diego Padres. You know, their Padres are on a 4-game runner here. They took care of business against the Chicago White Sox. Late game stuff there with them. Good pieces of hitting. Fernando Tatis, go-ahead homer, stuff like, or extending the lead homer. Dodgers salvage a series against the Rockies. And I say that because, you know, we spoke last Thursday, Blake, about how we really needed to see the Dodgers, again, take care of business. What's up, Roy? Welcome in, everybody. We'll get to these super chats in just a second. But ensuring that they don't go into this series with a chance to outright lose the division, you know, that lead with it. But what we talked about prior to hopping on the show, Padres are in control of their own destiny, like you said, right?
Yeah. So if they win out, they win the division. Nothing the Dodgers could do would change that. So it's kind of tough. You're not expecting the Padres to win out, and they're going to have a tough series with the Diamondbacks after they play the Dodgers, and the Diamondbacks are going to be fighting for their playoff lives with the Braves right behind them. So it's going to be a challenge there for them, but they are in control of their own destiny while the Dodgers aren't. So it's going to be tough. Oh, actually, I should say the Dodgers
absolutely
are kind of in control of their own destiny. If they win 2 from the Padres, they clinch the division. But
for sure,
either team can take hold of it and go from there.
Yeah. So pop this one up on Air 300. Thanks for joining us, man. As always, we appreciate you. Outstanding comeback win. Our starting pitching is a hope and a prayer at this point, but it is what it is. On that note, is it just what it is? Is this, do you have, so is there think about it like, it's a teeter-totter here. How much is leaning one side or the other here for you? Like with how much we need the offense, the Dodgers need the offense to put up these games here. We're going to see the bullpen. The bullpen was incredibly strong today. Just allowed 1 earned run, a lot of bulk innings there after Yamamoto goes just 3 innings. Where does that line? If you're on that same plane, which way? It's the offense and the pitching staff, starting pitching especially. Where does it weigh for you in one way or the other?
The offense is definitely going to be the thing that carries this team, and if they're going to be successful, it's going to be because of their offense. But I do think I'm more confident in the pitching staff than most people are at this point.
Yeah.
I think starting off with Yamamoto and Flaherty, you have a great 1-2 that most teams can either only match, like they're not going to be better than that 1-2 up there, and most teams are going to be worse than them. So you have a good starting point there, and that's what you need in the postseason. It's already a lot better than what they had last year with an injured Kershaw, Bobby Miller, and Gonsolin. So there's some reason to be optimistic there. And then if you're looking at picking the next 2 starters, like you kind of have some faith in Walker Buehler. Like I'm not totally confident in him, but I feel like he could at least keep them in a ball game. And with this offense, that's all they really need from him. And then you're looking for the last game. You're probably going to have some combination of Kershaw, Tony Gonsolin, and Landon Knack, which you can do worse than that for your number 4 starter. It's not ideal. You'd obviously love to have Gonsolin there, but you can get outs that way, and you can win games with that staff, especially with this offense that they have. So it's definitely going to be carried by the offense, but the pitching staff isn't as bad as a lot of people want to think.
Yeah, I think it's just, when you expect so much, it's that the letdown with the back end, I would say with everybody, at any point, the volatile starting rotation for the Dodgers and how when there needs to be a rock solid start and it doesn't happen, the letdown is really hard. You expect you coming off of, say Bobby Miller starts or, a blow up Robleski start. When you get guys like Flaherty or Yamamoto starting, you expect not perfection, but length and quality. And when Yamamoto comes out the gate here and doesn't look polished, his stuff still looks good, but he lacked a lot of arm side command there. So I agree with you a lot. But I think we're, like we've spoken in past shows here, that they're in worlds better shape, I feel, even with the injury concerns, just because of the front end guys, Yamamoto, Flaherty, and the upside of Landon Knack. Walker Buehler has given you some quality. I still feel like in better shape than they were last year for sure. But I still think the offense is going to need to carry big time load there. They're going to have to keep them in games big time. All right. Laura, I'm going to pop this one up here because it plays right in here. John H said, we have lost 7 of 10 games against the Padres. Is that accurate?
Unfortunately, it is accurate. The Dodgers only have 3 wins against San Diego this year. So even if they end up sweeping, like the Padres would still own the tiebreaker, but at that point it wouldn't matter because the Dodgers would clinch the division. So yeah, they just have to go out there and play good baseball. But if they leave and the Padres are a game behind, tied in the division, it's going to be tough because the Padres would own that tiebreaker.
Yeah. Just got to take care of business. Same thing every single series. At this point, looking at the back end, just got to take care of business here. No other way about it. Like it could be the same thing for the Padres. Shout out to the Padres fans in the chat. We appreciate you joining in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Josh, what's up, man? Here's the attention you're looking for, buddy. Hey, it's going to be a good series. What are you going to do? You got to play. You got to play. Atmosphere is going to be big time. It was good to see Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani step up in those moments. I know they're not looking directly at scoreboard stuff, but when a big swing's got to happen, you've got to grind at the end of the ball game. The Colorado Rockies are trying to play spoiler. They enjoy doing that year after year. It's just how it goes for them. And the Dodgers stepped up back into the game. Kike Hernandez, big swing. Freddie Freeman finally comes through after 2 ridiculous, bad luck stuff, hard hit balls earlier in the game, doesn't get it done, and keeps the division at least at a point where you can leave that Padres series at worst with a razor thin margin with the division. You know what I mean? So at least they took 2 of 3 there. And I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, definitely could have been worse. It seemed like they were trending to lose 2 of the 3, so to come out winning 2 of the 3, definitely a positive outcome there. Of course, you want to see them take all 3, but they've put themselves in a position where if they go take care of business against the Padres, they win the division. If they don't take care of business, they're probably going to lose the division, and like that's on them. You just want to give yourself a chance to be in that spot there, and it'll be a fun series.
Yeah. So Padres come to town. We'll pull this one down here, Laura. Thank you so much for always joining. What are you expecting to see from the Dodgers? I know, speaking with some friends and people who cover the game, with some frustration around the urgency from with bullpen decisions from Dave Roberts. Last night things worked out for the interim, but when it comes to guys like Daniel Hudson who are struggling, Brent Honeywell in different spots, depending how much you trust him. Are you expecting Dave Roberts to manage these games with the thought process that you worry about today because this is the division right here? Or do you think they're going to maintain this not soft approach? Or do you think they're going to maintain full steam ahead here where it comes to razor tight game? Bullpen might be a little taxed. I know a lot of people saying it in chat. You think they're just going to say, we've got to go with the best guys because these are essentially playoff games?
I think he's going to manage it a lot closer to playoff games than not. I'm not sure that's going to be full playoff game. Like, they're not going to throw Michael Kopech 3 days in a row probably because you still do have the playoffs coming up. As much as you want to get the division and get that first round bye, like they do have a playoff spot regardless of what happens. So I think they're going to be aggressive, but not pushing everyone where you're going to potentially risk an injury. And that is probably like the best way to go about it. Like, as much as you want to win the division, get that first round bye, there's no point in risking your playoff potential future to win the division. So we'll see aggressiveness, but not overly aggressive.
Sure. I totally understand where you're coming from. The frustrated fan definitely doesn't want to hear that they're going to continue to not, protect some of these arms. But if you're saying the bullpen is a part that you need to keep healthy and you need to keep rested to be at optimal spots, you're going to continue to see usage being varied, and they're going to be monitoring that. But I expect, just like you said, I expect Dave Roberts to, push that pedal just a little bit. I really do. I think knowing that Padres are coming into Dodger Stadium, it's a different atmosphere. Playing in Petco is a different animal. Petco fans, they still that ballpark. It's playing right on top, so it feels like a very, it's an intimate game. Like it's you're right on top of the field there. It's loud. And Padre fans, the Padres show up. Mookie Betts said it. He's been right all year long, and I expect this series to be every bit like an October baseball series. So knowing that it comes down to this, with how razor thin it is, 3 games, Padres coming in, winning 4 straight, Dodgers winning that 1, taking 2 of 3. It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be tight games. Manny Machado, we know how he is playing the Dodgers. He's got that chip. Who do you aside from that, what's a little bit of expectation? I don't need to hear optimistic Blake. I want realistic Blake here. Toss some water on the fans in the chat and all of us and maybe me.
I can't say I'm overly optimistic about the series in itself. The Padres have been playing fantastic, and they always seem to step up and play the Dodgers well.
Yeah.
I think it'll be competitive, and they can go either way. It's just, you never know how it's going to end up working out in baseball, but like the Padres are a good team over there. I think they have the pitching matchup. I think they have their 3 aces, or top 3 pitchers going against the Dodgers, while the Dodgers are going with like Landon Knack and probably Walker Buehler in that mix. So they're at the pitching disadvantage there. So it's going to be tough. And hopefully they just keep playing good baseball and come through.
You know what that says, guys? Chat, 1,200 viewing across all social media. Again, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell for us. Please take 1 second to do that. It says that the offense is going to have to carry. It says that the offense is going to have to step up against the same thing I've been talking about all year. We got to see how they play against postseason pitchers, these big pitching matchups. How do you rack it up? I don't care how it is against these random pitchers who just, come up and they have ridiculous stuff and they find a little bit of command and they look filthy. I want to know how they're going to react against stuff, against these pitchers who are going to be in those postseason spots. They're going to have the possibility of seeing 2-3 times through the order. How are you going to wear them down? That's going to be the biggest barometer for me. Keep your pitching staff in the game. Hopefully the starting pitchers can give them enough. That's it. I'm not talking about defense. I'm saying I need the stars to keep playing. I need the lower half of the order to keep going. And if I see more ground ball double plays like I saw today, I'm going to rip my hair out. I'll shave my head. Not really, but it'll be gone. You can't see that again. Got to play clean ball games here. It's felt sloppy, big time. Talking about defense for the Dodgers is something I do not like doing because if you are doing it, that means it's poor. And that's something that does not win you ball games. So it's going to be loud atmosphere, big time. Dodger fans got to step it up. Dodgers fans got to treat it like playoff games because it is. And then you hopefully go into the final series in Colorado playing video game arcade baseball in Coors, not having to worry about, burning your entire staff to just cling to a division lead. That's where I'm at, man.
Yeah, I think that's going to be important. Going to Coors, it's like the worst thing you can possibly do, especially at the end of the season there. It tends to always mess up your pitchers and give them a hard time. So you never want to predict 2 wins there or anything because you just don't know what's going to happen there. It's always crazy baseball.
Yeah.
So my hope is the Diamondbacks end up coming through and take a game or 2 from the Padres if the Dodgers don't end up clinching the division here. So it'll be fun. I think there's a real good chance we see this come down to game 161, game 162 to determine who ends up winning the division. So we'll just have to see. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh says our Padres Dodger games the most entertaining games. They might be. Padres fan, you're tuning into a Dodgers show, so I think it piqued your interest for sure. Looking ahead to it, I totally understand. This is what baseball is all about. Best teams lining up at the end of the year. You're not seeing a lot of these matchups across Major League Baseball, especially with powerhouse teams. You're not seeing this that much in the American League at all. You're seeing this in the National League at late September. Games matter, and it's going to come down to tie-breaking stuff. It's going to come down to season series to determine, possibly who has that top spot and who's playing on the other side of the bracket, potentially, or who even might match up in the first round. Who knows? Padres and the Dodgers are right there, neck and neck, and good ball clubs. You tuned into what Blake and I have been doing all year. We've given props to, what the, Diamondbacks have done, what they built. Unfortunately, their pitching staff didn't put it together. If you've kept tabs, we gave a ton of credit at the trade deadline to Preller and, having the balls to go out and go trade for a bullpen, and they've lived up to it. So absolutely, man. Definitely. Marco, same thing. Pods fan here, enjoy your Doja show. Should be an epic series. No doubt. We're going to be on here, recapping that stuff, chatting about it because it's important. This is the time of the year where it gives not only us a ton of content, but it evokes a lot of emotions from fans, and you really get to see where your team is at. And how often, chat, how often do we really get to see this from the Dodgers? Last year, we were complaining that there wasn't enough fire going in. Here you go. This will be it. Do they step up? Do we see the double plays in these big spots? Do we get frustrated by it? It's going to be all in between. I'm not looking forward to it because it might stink, but I'm looking forward to it because I enjoy the hell out of, big time postseason baseball, and we're getting it late September here.
One thing we can say for sure, it's going to drive us crazy. We're going to be frustrated after every inning, after every pitch.
Yes.
And it'll be fun. It's going to be like postseason baseball in September.
Yes, for sure. All right. Now we're going to do it. We're going to live for today. We're going to be where the 2 feet
Then we
are.
have a few more super chats real quick.
It ties in. All ties in. All ties in. Richard, good win, but can't keep having starting pitching stink in the first inning. Every failure on offense, you can pull a rabbit out of a hat so many times. We better match the Padres' intensity. Looking at the offense, I want you to break down how they were early in the game, Blake, and tell me. And we know those issues were frustrating, but Teoscar Hernandez gets him rolling a little bit. Freddie Freeman doesn't come up in a couple big spots there with multiple runners on base, 1 out, one with the bases loaded. The other was with 2 on. That's something that I know people have talked about a lot. But if you look at how people don't like this. He hit the ball hard. Just the moment didn't happen for him. That's just baseball stuff happened. What else do you have to say about the failures on offense and them having to really look at playing against the Rockies? You expect them to scratch and claw early in the game against Senzatella. they can't keep doing this late game.
I'm not too concerned about the offense. Like right before the Rockies series, they scored 8 or more runs in 4 straight games, and then they had their opportunities on Saturday and just didn't capitalize there. And then early today, they had opportunities, didn't capitalize until the late innings. So I'm not worried at all. I think they were 1 or 2 hits away each game from taking an early lead or having a lot of momentum going into it. And like, that's baseball. It's going to happen where some days you're going to have your offense working and some days it's going to be more of a struggle. But overall, they're putting up competitive at bats. They're getting guys on base. And the more times you get people on base, the more likely you're going to end up scoring runs. It's not always going to happen, but a lot of times it is going to work out in your favor. And today it just happened a little later. They went on a streak of 13 or something innings where they just weren't getting any offense, but the prior 27 innings, they were fantastic. And then the ending few innings here, they were also fantastic. So just kind of the ups and downs of a season where your offense isn't always going to be completely locked in and scoring every chance they get.
For sure. And, Teoscar Hernandez is his 31st homer of the year today. Kike, what a swing, though. What a swing. He's a big moment player. He always is. 5th pitch of the at-bat, gets a sweeper, middle away, barrels it up, off Jaden Hill, and brings the Dodgers 5-3 right there. Striking distance, bottom 7. And from there, you give yourselves a shot. And I'm really happy that the game didn't stay at 5-1 because this would be a very different conversation Sure. Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely, Scott. Shut up. But we're talking about when they're the mistake pitches, they didn't miss them. They're not getting frustrated. They're staying within their own. You saw Kike Hernandez trading information with Mookie Betts in there. Didn't work out for Mookie that inning, but we're seeing a team continuing to fight. We're seeing a team that's staying locked in. It's just that the team feels so volatile right now that every single big win feels like we're back. That's it. We're back. We're all in. That's how I feel with it. And when it looks really bad, it feels really bad. And is this a team that's going to, excuse me, is this a team that's going to get bounced in the first round? It bounces, but it goes between that on any given day. And that's the beauty of baseball, but that's always the volatility of what we're dealing with here with how this team is working on such razor thin stuff. Got a couple super chats here. Don't care 187. Will Ohtani catch Judge's home run numbers? We talked about this a few weeks ago and it was kind of like, there's no way, right? But Judge has just been cold.
Yeah, I think Judge is 54 now and Ohtani is 53. So I'll say yes with Ohtani going into Coors. Nice hitter-friendly ballpark there. So maybe we see Ohtani 55 and Judge stays at 54, or they both get to 55 or something like that. But yeah, I mean, Ohtani is on fire right now. And when Ohtani is locked in, he's very locked in. He's a very streaky player where sometimes he'll go 2 for 20 with the homer. And then his next 10 at-bats, he'll hit 7 homers. So it seems like he's on his hot streak right now. And I kind of expect that to keep continuing, especially with so much to play for and him really stepping up in big moments and being locked in.
Yeah, no, he's getting, pitches in the head of account. I know Mookie Betts there, 2-strike stuff. And Shohei Ohtani, when it's a miss in the zone, today was a splitter that stayed. I would say about kneecap, right, low thigh high, barreled that thing. 114, 115. Yeah, Judge homer today, 55 on the year. I mean, it's going to be tight. There's games left. I mean, Padres are going to be trying to make perfect pitches, and what happens when you have to try to. You're looking to make a perfect pitch. Mistakes happen, so I wouldn't be surprised if Ohtani gets a couple versus the Padres here, and then you head in the course, and then anything happens. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a close race.
If Judge homered today, though, I think I'm giving him the edge because I think that's 2 in 2 days for him.
Yes.
So he might be heating up a bit there, but I mean, you can't count out Ohtani still.
It's a very good thought. It's an unbelievable thought to be having. The fact that Shohei Ohtani, he's battled back so much here. Can't say enough about it. Jonathan Montgomery, could Tony Gonsolin or Danny Duffy return to playoffs? I always appreciate you, John, bringing up Danny Duffy, keeping the legend alive here. Let's bring this. You want to bring up the Tony Gonsolin stuff right now?
Sure.
Let's do it. we'll bring that up. We'll tie this in. John, thanks for asking this here because there's a lot of momentum to this. Tony Gonsolin, he's looked very good in AAA, with Oklahoma City here. Blake, what are we looking at here with Tony Gonsolin?
Yeah, so he made his third rehab start yesterday, went 3 innings without giving up a run. I think there were 3 no-hit innings with a walk and 6 strikeouts. So Dave Roberts said if that rehab outing went well, then he could potentially be an option to rejoin the Dodgers and pitch for them his next time he's throwing. I think today he said he's going to throw another bullpen, and then they'll make that decision on if he's coming back or anything like that. So he's an option. Roberts also added he wouldn't necessarily need to pitch in a regular season game before they potentially add him to the postseason roster, although they'd like him to do that. So it does seem like he's going to join the Dodgers here in the next few days. And he also added, they're not totally ruling him out as a starting pitcher. I'm still not buying that's going to happen, but it is a possibility. And Robert said, Gonsolin has a ton of versatility. He's pitched as a starter or a reliever before, so you could see him making a straight start. You could see him piggybacking someone. Maybe you get a situation where Kershaw goes 3 innings and then Gonsolin goes 3 innings, and then that's essentially your starting pitcher for game 4. So it seems like it's trending in the right way, and it wouldn't be surprising if Gonsolin is on the playoff roster.
Yeah, for sure. And, stuff like we saw today, Ben Kasparius eating, 3 innings here, 5 strikeouts, allows 1 earned run, kind of walks a line. The Dodgers have steadily used, guys in multiple inning roles this year. And they've been very comfortable doing it. And I think it protects pitchers from having to see, their hitters being able to see some of these pitchers multiple times there, but it also bridges a gap with a pitching staff that needs length wherever they can get it, whether it's from the starting pitching, whether it's from a guy coming in following a short stint from we'll just say if he starts a game, Tony Gonsolin starts a game, then you hand it off to somebody else. And I think these are high caliber arms, with Kasparius, who's got incredible stuff there, more of a, a multiple pitch guy who just kind of, pretty much air it out. These are arms that they're going to be relying on for that formula into the playoffs. Is that right? You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
How much though? I think maybe just for one game, or do you think they're going to have them all at the ready at any given notice? Just because Yamamoto, Flaherty has shown that he's a big pitching, per inning pitch per inning guy. I think for me, I think they're going to be keeping him at the ready, right?
I think you're going to see Landon Knack in the bullpen as their long reliever. If someone like Yamamoto or Flaherty or Buehler goes short in the game, then you have Knack to fill in for multiple innings. I think you might see them also go with more of a straight bullpen game if that ends up happening. Yep. And I do think it's kind of trending to seeing Kershaw, Gonsolin as your platoon in game 4. And then, so that would be Yamamoto, Flaherty in games 1 and 2, whatever order you want to go there. Then Buehler game 3, then your Kershaw, Gonsolin platoon game 4. And then that gives you your full bullpen and Landon Knack to eat innings that you may need. So that's how I think it's trending. Maybe Knack ends up just getting the straight start and Gonsolin goes to the bullpen if Kershaw isn't ready, but that's kind of how I see it going.
Yeah. Tony Gonsolin, like you said, his third rehab game here, goes 3 innings, 6 strikeouts, throws 45 pitches, 28 strikes, gets 10 whiffs, 7 called strikes, and allows 1 hard hit ball, 3 of them in play. So I think that from what we've seen with them, they've seen Tony Gonsolin, the organization they have a certain level of faith in him. Just hearing his name and not so much seeing him in the regular season does give me some pause, without a doubt. It has to, just because you'd like to see the person you're putting in those spots there. But he's pitched in the postseason. It's just going to be, is that heartbeat going to be there if they deploy him in a postseason game with such little exposure? But if the stuff's going to play, the stuff's going to play, and I'm sure they're going to calculate that to the best of their ability in terms of how much can they rely on him. But I think I don't hate the idea of it. They just need to fill. I don't care. They just need to fill the rotation in the bullpen with as many quality arms as they can. The Dodgers aren't in a place to really pick and choose unless we're talking about from guys from that are bad to worse. You just need to kind of have a cutoff there where you have some faith with some stuff, and then that's when you just roll.
Yeah, I think so. like the saying, beggars can't be choosers. It's kind of the thing here with the Dodgers. They've had so many pitching injuries. They kind of just have to go with their best mix that they have, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah, I mean, Gonsolin in the playoffs after missing a full year is desperate. It's kind of, yeah, look where it is. Walker Buehler has gone from, there's no way he's pitching in there. They're modifying his usage. We've seen him go full sinker cutter. We've seen him take a length of time away from the team to go figure it out. I'd say the Dodgers are a little bit desperate, but that desperation kind of goes, it's like there's like 1-2 in the rotation. And then after that, you're kind of picking and choosing. Landon Knack, you like Landon Knack? Is Kershaw going to be ready to go? Is that what they're going to rely on? Is Gavin Stone done? It's been a ridiculous roller coaster the last month with who has been there. The fact that we're talking elbow tendonitis and Tyler Glasnow ramping it up and then shutting him down. It's like, let's once you peel that back, and we're going to look back at this season and say, man, we were looking towards the end of the year with guys who had potential season-ending injuries and saying, no, we need them to have just this one good bullpen session, this one good sim start, and then let's just toss them in because they need it. It's been a weird one. This has been the weirdest one for you? Or is last year?
I think this has been weirder because last year, they didn't really go all in. We talked about that a lot, that they were more focused on this year. They didn't go out and be aggressive in anything. They had a quiet trade deadline. This year, they kind of went all in on everything, and things just kept breaking, and a lot of patchwork here and there. So it's definitely been a pretty weird season.
Yeah, definitely. Final thoughts on Yamamoto from today. We talked about his command there. Any concerns at all from him, or this is just a part of the bumps of him, in this process getting back to, full strength in the big leagues?
I'm not concerned about him pretty much at all. I think there is going to be ups and downs. He came back and impressed pretty quickly, but there's going to be some hurdles to get over here and there. Just didn't seem like he didn't have his command today, so I'm not too worried about that. He's an 80 grade command guy. He's going to find it, figure it out. I think he'll lock in a bit for the postseason. I don't really have any worries about him at all.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking 6-pitch guy here, graded out on Savant. So all of his stuff looked good. Spin rate's good. Velocity good. All in line. Stuff was a little bit up today in the spin category, but command wasn't there. For me, it was big time on the arm side fastball, up and away. I know everybody, if you've taken a look at him, Davis says 80 grade command guy yet. Yeah. I mean, that's how he makes his living. You're going to see him tunneling a ton of stuff. But for me, it was the biggest arm side command, fastball, working that up and away to lefties. That was kind of the issue there. So he'll figure it out. I'm same thing with you. Not concerned about him. You've got the 1-2 of him and Jack Flaherty. And then past that, you figure it out. Offense has to step it up here. We're going to click in confidence in Walker Buehler and Yamamoto. So we're going to stay on that Yamamoto trend here. Again, chat, take a second for us. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. If you have any thoughts about this that you'd like to bring up, anything about Walker Buehler, Yamamoto, or anything at all, heading into the postseason, toss in a super chat, toss in something to, drive that conversation, a narrative. I'm a big narrative guy. Something that you enjoy kind of highlighting and how you're looking at this Dodgers team going into the postseason. We'll stop, we'll chat, we'll take it wherever it's got to go. Rod's got one here real quick. If there was one MVP for all of MLB, who wins it? Who wins it for you, Blake?
Probably Aaron Judge. He's been the best offensive player by far. Mm-hmm. He has been out there playing quality defense, which I know that's been a big talking point in the NL with Lindor and Ohtani, the whole defense thing, but Lindor is a significantly worse hitter than Ohtani, which is why I don't consider defense to make up for that there, but Judge has been having a better offensive year than Ohtani even, so with the defense added on, I think his WAR is way off the charts right now, so yeah, it's got to be Judge for me.
It's just an unbelievable, stat line from Aaron Judge here. Just ridiculous stuff. This year, he's over a 1.1153 OPS. He's got an on base of 458, Blake. 55 pumps, $138 RBI. I know you're not big on that, but it is what it is. 129 walks. Remarkable stuff. remarkable stuff. So he has the ability. He's played 154 games, ton of production, unbelievable. I know he plays in that low ballpark there, but he does it absolutely anywhere. He's still in the prime of his career, one of the most feared hitters I've kind of ever seen, aside from the GOAT Barry Bonds. But yes, I would agree. Rod, great question, man. I would say I would co-sign with Aaron Judge, but when Ohtani's pitching, it's kind of hard to bet against that. But that's not for this conversation. All right, back to it. Stick with Walker Buehler for me real quick. After what we saw on Saturday, where do you go with him? Where's your opinion lie with Walker Buehler?
Walker Buehler is a very weird case this year. It seems like the last few starts, he's been like putting one piece of the puzzle away from completely figuring it out, but then he takes out another piece of that puzzle his next start and has to put it back in. Mm-hmm. It seems like he needs an off season just to refine everything and actually get things working right. Like we saw in his previous outing, he was really good. And then this outing, he comes back and he strikes out a lot of hitters, but he struggled early. He gave up the long ball, a few hard hit balls, and just dealt with traffic. I think he was better than the line actually showed. The first run scored because of his own pretty much an error. It wasn't ruled that, but he made the throw too high, rushed it, didn't get the out. He did end up stranding a runner there, so that was encouraging. Then he gave up a poor double, like on a mislocation, which is one he'd have to take back there.
Yeah.
Or you'd want him to take back. I think the home run ball when he got beat, it wasn't a bad pitch. It's just some good hitting there, so not too concerned about that. But he's struggling to keep runs off the board still, regardless of how you look at it. And while there are a lot of positives to take away, it just seems like every single outing, he's just like one thing off from actually having a good outing. So it's hard to completely bet on him until he actually figures out how to keep those runs off the board. But there's encouraging things to look at.
I like this one here from John. Thanks for putting this one up here because he says, you got to stop trying to put Band-Aids on your feelings about Walker. Blake and I said that if he just kept trying to this is way earlier in the year. Everybody, John, if you're tuning in for the, for the very first time or very few, or you just don't remember the line that Blake and I have said about him, is that if he kept trying to be the guy he was instead of the pitcher who he currently is or can become, that's what got him in trouble. That's what having a completely diminished fastball, his stuff, he'd have to really figure out what he still could throw at high grades and emphasize that and work his fastball off of that instead of being the primary pitch, which he wanted to be was his fastball. And you've seen kind of the revelations he's had on camera. Like he's been very open with it and very honest. And I've appreciated the hell out of it from Walker Buehler. That he said he sucked. Like he said he needs to get better. He's walking the line of being who he is now while trying to move past from what he was and what he can be. So I think that the maturation of our belief in what Walker Buehler is lies in it's going to be a continuing process to watch him. And unfortunately, just as a fan of Walker Buehler and to what the Dodgers need, this is, potentially his final year with the team. You know what I mean? So we might not get more time to see who he can become. But for where he is right now, he's gotten to a point where he is not losing them games. I know you spoke about how he was one pitch away in the second inning facing Ezekiel Tovar in a 2-2 count, and he ropes it for a 2-run double. And they're immediately down 3-0. So we're coming between one pitch away from another solid outing where we're saying if the offense is on their P's and Q's and they're out to an early lead or they're giving him some run support, somebody in chat said it, you can relax and you can start pumping the zone, throwing strikes, not having to be so fine. So I know, John, it's our feelings are that he's just got to be better and he knows it, but this is who they've got. And people have said it in chat. It's a desperation time. And if he's a solid 3, he's a solid 3. But the offense has got to help pick him up because that's just the point that they're at. He won't be perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing we talked about with Kershaw, where there's going to be days where he's not going to be completely locked in and he's going to make some mistakes and get beat by that. But you at least see enough there where you can expect him to keep you in games overall. Yeah. And that is really all this offense needs. Like, don't put them behind too early to a huge deficit. Don't give up multiple runs throughout the next few innings. Just give them a chance to win, and you're going to be okay with that. The postseason, I know people always talk about it's all based on pitching, but even like some of the aces have bad starts in the postseason, and like that's just how it goes. It's really hard, and you just have to give your team a chance to win, and that's really all there is to it. And Buehler is going to have some mistake pitches where he gets beat. He's going to give up runs, but just give them a chance. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing we talked about. Co-sign it for sure. Walker Buehler is going to be what he is. For me, if you had to choose between Walker Buehler or Landon Knack in a game 3, who would you take? Blake Williams, Mr. Blake Williams.
I think I'm leaning Buehler because I like the strikeout stuff he showed yesterday.
9 Ks.
He's had the swing and miss trending up, so I think that is a big positive for him. He has the postseason pedigree. I don't think he's going to get overwhelmed by the big moment. We've seen rookies come in and struggle in the postseason, like Bobby Miller last year. I know Miller and Knack are completely different pitchers. Knack, it's like, for me, I'm always talking about how high I am on stuff and guys getting swing and miss in the playoffs, and Knack isn't that kind of pitcher. So while I trust him to be effective, like I don't see as much upside there.
It's a great breakdown. Yeah. And John, this is the reason why I asked that question is you say Walker hands down. That's the conversation that's there. That's ultimately the whole thing. So I'm glad you asked that, and I'm glad you responded with that, because if Clayton Kershaw doesn't make his way back, or they don't feel confident with him in a short series, that's the question that you're asking. Otherwise, it's a bullpen game and possibly Tony Gonsolin there. So it's Walker Buehler or the other options, which is we're talking like Tony Gonsolin, Clayton Kershaw, who hasn't pitched aside from side sessions and bullpens, or just a strict bullpen game. So yes, it's beautiful. That, guys, that's exactly how we love this to work it out, you know. So with Yamamoto, completely different story. We've seen him already look dominant. It's just about they're going to protect him until October hits, time becomes time, where his ceiling of pitches will be at in terms of, you know, his usage, keeping it there. I'm glad they just kind of, you know, got him out. Don't exert too much here. There is a need, but there's no need, if that makes sense. But being at the 1, being your 1A, we've seen him be great. We've seen him be to the point where it's dominance. And then, yes, somebody says that contract worth it. We'll see. A lot to go. Pitching's expensive. So I think it is. I think it is for the now. But we're going to be leaning on Yoshinobu quite a lot. I think we can preview it now.
Real quick, the question about Knack here.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, why are we so dismissive of Knack? It's maddening. All he does is churn out quality starts while Buehler implodes. I like Knack a lot as a pitcher. I think he's a really solid quality option, and I think he's going to play a key role for the Dodgers in the postseason. I just think given the way Walker Buehler is trending, I think there's more upside there. I think Knack, as good as he's been, he's maybe pitching a little over his head. Like his FIP is closer to 5. I know his ERA is at 3 right now, but there are trends there that are concerning. He's giving up about 2 home runs per 9 innings. His batting average on balls in play is extremely low. And when that starts to normalize, you're going to see more run scoring. Yes. So, I think Knack is a good pitcher. I just don't think he's as good as he's showing. And if you're picking between, projections on what you're expecting, I do think Buehler has the better trends right now, even though that's not what we've seen overall throughout the year.
There you go. TQT, I see you, man. I see you're very active in chat. I got you. Trying to give Landon Knack some more credit for sure. We've definitely been giving Landon Knack his credit there. But the Dodgers are very hesitant to give young arms time in the postseason, aside from Bobby Miller. And who saw that implosion coming last year? Not many people. I didn't. I don't think anybody did. They refused to pitch Ryan Pepio, and we see how that goes. They went Lance Lynn over it. So I think somebody asks, is Landon Knack going to be the long guy in a bullpen game here? That might be his role. But if things don't click correct, then Landon Knack might be staring at a postseason start. But it's something that will be on the very, very back end, I think, on their list of options for that 3rd and 4th game.
Yeah. Knack is going to contribute. It's just in his last 17 innings, he's like a 4.3 ERA guy, which is probably where he's closer than the 3.3 he has this year. So it's just all about projections and what the Dodgers are going to lean and think.
Yeah. Norm wants to go with the eye test. He wants us to go with the eye test. You know, he says the analytics are stupid. Trust the results in your eyes. Buehler's bad. Landon Knack is good. Anything we can dissect on that? Anything else we can pull from it? Or that's just, we see the game differently, Norm. Like we see the game, we see both. We can talk eye test on some things. We can talk analytics on the other. Sure. Like there's no way, like if you're going to see it one way, we'll try our best to get you to see from the other thing, you know?
I mean, I get it. I think they're a lot closer statistically than people want to give them credit for. I know we're kind of bashing the stats here with this comment, but we're trying to also give you like the Dodgers point of view and what they're thinking going to do. And the Dodgers are a very analytics heavy team. They're going to always go with the data. And yeah, that's just how they do it. That's how I agree with their decisions to go with data more often than not. I do think sometimes the Dodgers are less data driven than a lot of people do want to give them credit for. Like they're going to go with their guys a lot of times over what the data says. So every team in baseball is using analytics though, following data, following trends, unless you're like the White Sox and A's, they're probably not doing it too much, but that's just where the game is right now.
Yeah. TQT says, I think we're blindly knowing or unknowingly about Walker Buehler's past postseason success. He isn't that guy anymore. And we don't know how he's going to be in the postseason with his new stuff. This is the position they're in. They'll go with a guy they feel most confident in. And that guy with most confidence might not be everyone's perfect option. That's what they've got. That's what they've got. And they're dealing with at the point of their third, fourth, fifth guy, potentially. They've got to go with what they've got. But at the front end, you have two. Yeah, Davis says, hate the new Buehler's new stuff. Yeah, me too. But at least you at the front end, you have two guys you feel solidly confident in Yamamoto and Jack Flaherty there. And I think that's the difference between my view on this postseason coming up and 2023. Anything else there? You kind of, we're on the same thing, huh?
I think so. For me, the Buehler past postseason stuff isn't about like the results and stuff as much as it is about he's been there and he has the mentality to not get overwhelmed with the moment. He has tended to step up in those moments and want to be on the mound. And I do think that confidence does play a part into it. So, like, I'm not expecting him to go out there and be an ace or anything, but I'm not expecting him to go out there and be like Bobby Miller, where he just fell apart because the moment was too big for him type thing.
Yeah, for sure. The thing, what I like about Knack, we can pull this down. TQT, thanks, man, as always. He says analytics over your eye test. Certain spots, gut feelings matter sometimes. And we hope Dave Roberts picks the good mix of both there. Super lost my train of thought. But I want to just pull this up for Mike because he all caps me at a perfect time. He says, would you consider Ohtani in closing situations? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Andrew Friedman kind of shut that down after Dave Roberts slightly opened the door. And even when Roberts opened the door, he said it was still very unrealistic or unlikely. So it's not going to happen.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're going to stay. I want to talk Landon Knack for 1 sec. So keep that bar up there on there. But I'm going to just call for questions. Last call for questions. Just toss them in. We're going to do a bunch. We don't know how many, but we'll do quite a bit of them, and then we'll pull that thing back up. All caps question. Bring some stuff up. I saw, David, we'll talk Gavin Lux in just a minute here. But everybody, all caps questions. This is the time heading into the Padres series here. If there's anything you want us to break down there, Blake and I will absolutely cook on talking about postseason stuff there. Any worries you have, shout out to the over 1,400 across all social media. We're talking about Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We appreciate all you guys joining in. Thanks for doing the early stuff here. We've got some stuff going on tonight, so we wanted to make sure we hopped on live following an incredible walk-off win there to salvage that series against the Rockies, and to make sure we preview everybody properly going into this massive series with the Padres here. But to stick with Landon Knack, I think that because his fastball is so good, and if people don't understand what makes Landon Knack so good is how, his fastball metrics are incredible. I'll pull up some stats his next start there and make sure to retweet those if you want to check him out, everybody. But he's a fastball, he'll force feed his fastball in the strike zone. And I think that Walker Buehler's got a little bit more of a developed arsenal at the moment. And I think it's just going to be because it's varied so much start to start here. I think that whatever will be feeling good that day will be what they go with. But with Landon Knack, I could see some things going wrong in the postseason if he's just like you said, Blake. He's averaging 2 homers per 9. So
yeah, with a low batting average on balls in play.
Yeah, so things could, once they start to regulate, that force feeding those fastballs, and even though a pitch might grade out incredibly, you can get yourself into damage if you rely on stuff. And where the postseason, everything is magnified. And if we're talking about a fastball that he's going to lean on, young pitcher, he's going to go to his best stuff there. And that's where Bobby Miller falters. At the end of the day, it's like fast when he needs a pitch, it's his fastball, and it's got to be on the money. If you don't have touch with your secondary stuff, it's not going to matter. Not going to matter, brother. All right. Let's see here. We'll just toss it up. David says, wish Scott and Blake would discuss the Gavin Lux situation. David, real quick, I'll let Blake tee it up, but I want you to emphasize which part of the Gavin Lux situation here, because there was a situation in last night's ball game that we'll talk about. But David, what specifically about the Gavin Lux situation here? And Blake, first thoughts talking Gavin Lux here, kind of in how he's been recently, man, because it's gone under the radar with the Ohtani 50-50 chase. The team's been playing competitive baseball. The conversation has shifted away from him as he's gone into, a fairly hefty platoon role here. What's going on with Gavin Lux?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of things all coming together at once. I think on his hot streak, he was one of the best hitters in baseball for that month or two. That wasn't sustainable. We knew he was going to come back down to earth. And I think we're kind of seeing that hit hard against him. Like, he wasn't going to keep that going. So regression was due to set in. I think he's in such a heavy platoon role that he's not getting many chances to kind of figure things out or able to get on a consistent rhythm there. Like, they've faced a lot of lefties recently and he's not in the lineup against them. So it is hard to build momentum, and Lux doesn't seem very good at coming off the bench and hitting. I think it was like 1 for 20 something as a pinch hitter in his career. Like, it's just, he's the type of hitter who needs to get into a rhythm and keep that rhythm going, and he's not able to do that right now. So I think both of those things are affecting him a lot. He's probably playing closer to his true talent level, like maybe more, not at this moment, but he's more of a league average guy than like what we've seen from him. And they're going to go through ups and downs and slumps and hot streaks. And that's just what's happening with him.
Yeah. So people bringing it up. I mean, in the month of September, he's got a 522 OPS here. We're talking 41 at bats. And I know his OBP is at a decent spot here, 327. But for everyone saying that Gavin Lux needs to face lefties here, you want to do it. You want to see it just to do it. Get yourself into a rhythm. GI says, he doesn't see like a Gavin Lux situation. If it's the biggest problem, then they're doing okay. Sure. But it's not their biggest problem. Like, that's not their biggest problem anymore. They've got a solid platoon for him, but I would prefer them to stay away from him facing lefties. And this is a situation that last night you saw in the 5th inning, bottom of the 5th, he comes up, Cal Quantrill gets pulled. They go to Luis Peralta here. Lefty scenario, 2 outs, bases loaded, strikes out. Dave Roberts, he gets pumped on the inner half there, strikes out on a foul tip, like 97 on the hands or inner half of the plate there. It was just a spot where if you're going to stick to a platoon in a big spot in a ball game down by 1, go to your darn platoon, man. This has been made an error. Yes. Like, go to your platoon. There's no business to be doing this, because if you're going to be giving those at-bats to somebody else, then give them to that somebody else who you would prefer in those platoon spots there. That's just how I see it. And that's why that's a frustrating management point of view, where I see if it's a close ball game, I want to see you manage like you're trying to win these things there, not get Gavin Lux just a surprise at bat on a spot that he's not going to be taking in the postseason.
I agree with that. I think the reason they left him in was because it was fairly early in the game. I think it was like the 5th inning or something like that. Mm-hmm. They still wanted to have him in for the later innings with the righties that would come out of the bullpen. I don't agree with that necessarily. They had the best chance to win it right there, so they should have went with the pinch hitter like Andy Pajes or even Kike or even Chris Taylor. But I think they was also trying to think ahead, maybe a little test opportunity there to see if he could potentially leave in Gavin Lux. And even when I tweeted that Gavin Lux struck out against the lefty, there was a million replies to the account. He didn't really strike out. It was, he got 2 terrible calls against him. He should have walked. So it's kind of funny there, ironic that he was hurt by the bad calls and people were mad about that, but also arguing he shouldn't be in that game after the fact. There's just so much that goes into it. I mean, It wasn't the right decision, but you can't blame him for striking out when there are 2 bad calls against him and also say mad that he was in there. I don't know.
Yeah. David says, he goes, he did get hosed by the ump, but that situation, it's not his spot to be in. So I agree with that. That's the sentiment I'm trying to get out here about Gavin Lux. So, David, if that's the situation you're talking about, that he's been, very poor lately, I would say the best track to get him back right on line is to just keep playing him against right-handed pitching, keep going from there. Let's not play him every day. Allow him to have the opportunities and things that he has done well. But overall, it hasn't been pretty here in this last month, last 15 games, slash line, 118 batting average, 279 on base, 118 slug. So not doing a whole lot of anything. He's walking, but I need to see more contact here. I need to see him get himself right because you're going to need all hands on deck here.
This is the other thing too, though, with Lux. His defense has definitely been a struggle for the last few weeks. And it was surprising because even early in the season when he wasn't hitting, the defense was really good. But now it seems like he's in a defensive slump. And with Lux, I do think he is very much like a head case in that regard, where when things go wrong for him, they very much spiral out of control. Like we've seen with his throwing issues in spring training and in the past. That's why he had to move off shortstop to begin with. And he has some trouble getting back on track when those issues do start to come up. So I do think the defense was a real concern with him.
For sure. Yeah. Would say so. And GI, say if we're talking about splits, Tommy Edman should be batting in the middle of the lineup against right-handed pitching. Sure. I mean, they could bat him lower in the order. That's fine. But I would still argue that a majority of the damage that Tommy Edman has done has been from the right-hand side, against right-handed pitching. So I would say that he's been fine. He's RBI spots there. Overall numbers aren't great, but he has produced. He has produced there. So it's that comes with him being a switch hitter. So he's afforded more opportunities in those spots there, regardless of the splits. That production's been there. So I think it's a different conversation that we're going to probably not have about Tommy Edman. He's not been a problem there. All right, toss him up, Blake. What do we got, man? Chad, you guys are doing awesome. We appreciate you as always. Over 1,400 in here. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday, kind of evening, as always, across all social media platforms. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Toss Blake a follow on Twitter, please. Bye, Blake Williams. He's the GOAT. He's a GOAT. TQT says, time to talk about Daniel Hudson. Yeah, it is. Is he off the postseason roster now? And why isn't Edgardo Henriquez up? Break it down.
To the second part, that's a very good question. I am surprised they're not giving him a look. He has really good stuff. He's the type of pitcher that can come in and change the outlook of your bullpen. So I don't know the reason. I'm very surprised by it. Regarding Daniel Hudson, we started kicking this idea around in our group chat yesterday. I definitely don't think he should be on the postseason roster. I think someone in here asked, what should their bullpen be in the postseason? So, I'll just throw that one up too. We'll answer them both at the same time. So we discussed this. It seems like Kopech, Phillips, Brewstar, Ryan Brazier, Trinan, Vesia, Banda, and that gets you to 7. And then you pick one of Gonsolin or Knack if you want the long man, Joe Kelly or Daniel Hudson. So you're kind of looking at a spot where you don't necessarily need Daniel Hudson, but also Dave Roberts was asked about Hudson yesterday, and he said he thinks the stuff is still good, and a lot of times he's just one pitch away from getting out of the innings clean, which I agree with, but the problem is he's giving up the homers pretty much every time when that's happening, and you can't have that happening in the postseason.
Yeah.
And at some point, it just has to come down to the results, and he's not putting them up. So I wouldn't have him on the roster. It's a tough situation because he's been really good for them all year, and I think they like him a lot and do have trusted him. But yeah, I wouldn't have him on the postseason roster.
Results haven't been good. Chat, take a look. Like, they just haven't. There's no way to, we slice and dice it however you want. It's a large sample too. If you pull up stuff and your narrative fits the last 7 days or the last 15 games, whatever you pull up on MLB.com, like, then I'll let you cook. But we're looking back, like, his last 30 appearances, almost 4.5 ERA, last 14 innings. We're talking ERA in the like above 7. A lot of contact, very walk heavy. And this is something where he's 37 years old. He contemplated, this is where we cope. And I don't want this to sound like I'm coping, but he's 37. He almost didn't come back this year. And it's for him, this is the dog days. And if they carry him, it's because the front office has trust in him or they don't feel there's a better option. But I'll argue and counter, and I'll say there are better options. Like, if they feel that there's even a slight chance there's a better option, you've got to carry it. But yeah, the perplexing thing is why they haven't given Edgardo Henriquez some looks. And I think that's just because they feel the maturity might not be there in terms of his stuff and his command, because that's been a problem. But it's just throwing 103, 104, Blake. Like, I feel like you got to do it, but they're not going to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's surprising.
Yeah, GI right here, bro. Like, Dan Hudson is showing his age. Velo is down. K9 is cratered. Command is off. Yes, all bad signs for a reliever in his age 37 season. So it's a lot. Laura says, why is Roberts keep using him? You need a lot of arms. And you have to see what you still have. You can't just say it's been so bad, you're never going to do it. You're never going to pitch him. He has pitched at a high level. He has closed out a World Series. The pedigree is there for many years. He, just like Blake said, he's been good for the majority of the year. Even with these struggles, his ERA is still 3.10 on the year. So it's like people forget how dominant he was early on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, he's being used because he's on the roster, and you have to use all your players to get through a major league season. If the front office decided to take him off the roster, then he wouldn't be used anymore, and that's kind of the only way that would happen.
TQT says, Hudson's command is off and Enriquez's command needs work, then give me the guy that tossed 103. We agree with you. We for sure agree with you. Enriquez has to be added, before the end, before he gets tossed into the Rule 5. After following, what is it, November, Blake? Is that right?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah. And GI says it's more of the 40-man roster situation. They'll have some more flexibility. They'll still want flexibility if Tony Gonsolin is ready to go. I agree. I totally agree with that. They need starters. They need guys with some length here. I think they feel they have enough bullpen arms to get it done. And for quite a while, the bullpen has got it done.
I think also part of that Daniel Hudson discussion is this is where the Dodgers are less analytically motivated than usual. Like, they are going to stick with their guys, even if the data isn't fully backing that up. I know someone asked earlier why Chris Taylor's still on the roster if they follow the data so much, but the Dodgers value like their clubhouse culture a lot. They value giving players more chances than they probably should. They value keeping their guys who have been around all year and giving them opportunities to perform. Like, that's just how they're going to manage their team. And that's where they disagree with data a lot of the times there and don't fully follow the analytics. So that's kind of how it is.
Yeah, I got you, man. All right. I saw a super chat sneak in here. Let's see where are you at. Rod, thanks, buddy. Rank the Dodgers' best relievers 5-1. Give me your top 5. 5-1.
Can I go 1-5? That seems easier than backwards.
Sure.
We're gonna go Michael Kopech, number 1. Surprising there, I know. I'm gonna go Alex Vesey at 2, Evan Phillips 3, Bruce Dargararo 4, and Blake Treinen 5.
I like that. Is there anybody on the outside looking in that would have a shot to crack that 5?
I'm
so watch down.
I guess
Sorry, guys.
Ryan Brazier, possibly. I think he has been pitching pretty well recently, so I could move him up. If Anthony Banda comes back, he could potentially get in there, but it is a pretty deep bullpen. I know they have their guys that no one ever wants to see, but that's going to be in every bullpen. Like, they have a 6 or 7 man deep bullpen that are quality options that you can rely on most of the time.
That make you feel good? That makes me feel good. Like, chat, like I see you guys putting a list on there. I see people saying, yeah, Blake's lit. Yeah, that's a good list. Like, we're talking about, if you're saying you have to work somebody into a top 5 and you still feel good with that, guy working their way into that top 5, you got to feel pretty good. You got to feel pretty good, but they need to be working themselves into a game that they can keep them in and they're not getting blown out. So I think that relies more on starting pitching, but I think the bullpen's been in a good spot. It's continued to be in a good spot. The philosophy's been in a good spot. So I like it. I like that list. That's good. Hallelujah. I'm going to toss yours up here because you flamed me the last show we had because I didn't answer your question. So I appreciate you being here. Question: what's your trust ladder of the bullpen? We just did it. I want you to give me another version there. So I don't, that question, we can change it a bit. You said the best 5. Now give me your trust 5.
I think it's kind of the same thing there, but Kopech's still number 1. I might move Evan Phillips down just because he's been kind of shaky this year. Like, he has some really good moments and then he'll come back out and have some bad ones. So I might move Gratterall up. I had him a little lower because we haven't seen much from him this year, but
I was going to ask about that. That's why that's my follow-up with that.
Considering what he did last year and so far what he's shown this year, I might have him at 3 there with maybe. I might even move Brazier ahead of Phillips, but
really,
I don't think the Dodgers are going to use like that mentality. So ranking them like 1 through 5 Dodger based, I think Evan Phillips is still up there in like the top 3. I think if we're talking about my personal bullpen ladder of trust, Ryan Brazier's looked really good.
I like that. I like that list. Makes you feel good. Makes you feel good. Now you just focus on the bullpen or in the starting rotation, and then we've got ourselves a real, thought process going into October. All right. Let's see. Toss this one out here real quick from Craig. Will Anthony Bond to come back? He's been throwing.
They expect him to come back when his IL stint is up in the 15 days from when he was first placed on it, which I think is like the 26th of September, but don't quote me on that exact date. But they're expecting him to come back. He's been throwing bullpens and all that, so everything's trending well. That's
beautiful. So I'm sure he's frustrated. He's probably motivated to make his way back there to kind of wash away that. I'm sure he had a moment, and he probably what now is dumb situation, punching something, and hopefully makes his way back because I'd have to look. Yeah, Matty Man says it's key. Yeah, bringing back Anthony is a key thing, and I totally agree because going into the postseason, I know Matt Moreno always likes to joke about the Dodgers feeling just overly confident in their right-handed relievers to get lefties out here, but since Anthony has been out. I would like to know, like to look in those spots and think who's been used where Anthony would have been. Like, how have they been supplementing that? So I think that, yeah, and Hep goes, yeah, he needed some rest, been heavily used all year. I agree. Yeah, he looked fatigued. He definitely came to a head where he was, the fatigue was the precursor to, some down production there. And then he has the injury. And then there we go. So David says Banna's just avoiding the Morrow treatment with this IL stint. Don't talk about my original Weapon X like that. Anthony Banna hasn't been that good. He hasn't been that 8th inning guy where you're like, yep, a game over, put him in, hand it over to Kenley, and that's your 1-2 at the back end. Doesn't matter who you bring up, unless it's the cheats. So don't bring Brandon Morrow in the same conversation with Anthony. I want a good question up here. Chat, again, we appreciate you. We're crossing over 1,500. Thanks for joining us. As always, we'll keep tabs for sure. Got another super chat here. Ravens Moreland just tosses in $5. If you have a question at all, if you have a comment, just let us know there. We always like to give everyone an opportunity to drop a question, drop a narrative. And if you want to toss that in. We'll keep an eye on that in the comments. But we appreciate you supporting the channel as always here. All right. Who platoons with Gavin Lux in October? Andy Pages or Mookie Betts? You have some good thoughts on this. So I'm going to toss this to you.
I think it's going to be either Kike or Chris Taylor. What I think it should be is Mookie moving into second with Andy Pages in the outfield. I think that makes the most sense. Pages deserves to be starting every day against left-handed pitching.
For sure.
Mookie can handle second base, but they haven't been willing to do that so far. They've been going with Kike and Chris Taylor there. And surprisingly, more often than not, it's been Chris Taylor instead of Kike. So I think he has the edge there on who they're picking. But yeah, I don't see why they're not using Pages in the outfield and moving Mookie in with the lefties on the mound.
Yeah. I agree with that. Andy Pages has looked, very solid. I like the mix there. If you can live with the defense, I think, you're seeing a plus bat. He looks confident in the box. And I think that's a big thing for, a young player. He looks confident there. He finally looks like very sure of himself in there. I know I've talked about, him diving across the plate a lot, and it's kind of cut himself off for some opportunities, opened himself up, to get caught going too far out, getting, jammed inside there. But I've liked what I've seen from Andy Pages. So I think they'll figure it out. And it's a good way to protect Gavin Lux from inopportune spots. All right. Let's see. I want somebody to give us something that's like going to toss a wedge in. Oh, this is a conversation nobody's ready to have. Are there any concerns regarding Freddie Freeman? Absolutely any, Blake?
A little. And I'm not sure if it's related to age as much as his finger. He's still playing through the fractured finger. It probably wasn't going to heal before the end of the season. So it's something he just kind of has to deal with. So I think that is playing into it. I think he's also just in a bit of a slump at the same time. Like when he first came back from his injury, he was hitting very well, and he was even a little surprised by it. So it's just kind of the roller coaster up and down of a season that he's not performing well. But I do think Freddie is the kind of guy who you can trust to lock in and perform well enough when you need to. But it is a little concerning in the back of my mind.
Yeah, a lot of people citing a slug. A lot of people, focusing on that. And he's looked good. He's had, back-to-back 2-hit games here against the Rockies in the second half, 2 of the 3. But the double plays were frustrating. But when you pull, the data away and see how hard he hit the ball, if he just elevated, we're talking a completely different story there. It's just the fact that came in RBI spots, runners scoring position spots, big points in a ball game where you need some runs. Stuff's all emphasized there. But it's a thing to monitor going forward. And it's not something I'm going to pay very much attention to because, like a lot of people say, I saw somebody put it in here and I want to find it. Aaron says, Freddie's good. Next question. Yes, he's very good. Next question. But it's just like, we'll keep monitoring the finger, and I've said consistently, and it just makes sense with it. The farther you get away from that injury, the better it'll be, as long as it, hopefully doesn't get worse. I'm a knock on wood. All right. Don Kim, this is for Blake. Which player is a Star Wars fan? Mookie Betts, based on his podcast with Gunnar, did not know. How happy did that make you?
I didn't know Mookie, or I didn't listen to that podcast. I haven't got around to it. I know Gunnar is a huge Star Wars fan. He had the lightsaber bat and does all the Legos. So big Gunnar Henderson fan here. Regarding who on the team might be a fan, that is a good question. Haven't seen any signs. I know Evan Phillips is a big Harry Potter guy, so maybe he just with the nerd stuff there. Yeah, it's a good question.
Oh, my bad. Here we go. Hep says, Scott and Blake, will Gunnar be a Dodger in 2029? We have to stop Gap till his free agency.
Hopefully.
You in?
Juan Soto, Gunnar Henderson, Shohei Ohtani.
Can we have one, either a phone call? I don't know if I was going to say, can we do a stream, but I don't know if we want to do that so we can freeze and cold take this. Maybe we could have a phone call of the most ridiculous hypothetical scenarios that you and I can put together for free agency here. And that'd be a good.
I'm just saying, when I said the Dodgers were signing Ohtani and Yamamoto in the offseason and threw out $700 million for Ohtani, it was called kind of crazy. So just saying, can't rule out anything with them.
Wasn't it funny when we were talking about like all those big contracts and people were saying he's not worth that, nobody's going to do that, and we just kept saying that it's just going to be something we've never seen before because you've never seen a player like this hit free agency, so nothing is out of the question, and there you go.
Yep,
that's dope.
So,
I like it.
Future Dodger Gunnar Henderson and Juan Soto.
F says Scott Bobichette 2025. Is this Kyle Freeland?
No, Alex Freeland. The
Alex.
prospect.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Oh, yes. Yeah. Alex Freeland 2026, and then Gunnar in 2029. He's got the blueprint.
I mean, they'll still have Miggy Rowe under contract next year, so
it's interesting. Yeah, and Tommy Edman aids a lot. Like that's a platoon that you can count on going forward. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on here. John Blee Blue again. With the super chat here. As always, thanks, man, for tuning in, supporting us with the super chats, comments, everything, hitting us up in direct messages and Twitter replies. Thank you. He says, "What's the starting rotation versus the Padres?" I don't think the Dodgers have announced anything yet, but we can kind of look at the potential of what it'll be. We know the Padres have lined up Michael King, Dylan Cease, and Joe Musgrove in that order from Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Blake, what does it line up for the Dodgers hypothetically from now?
I'm pretty sure Knack is getting the middle game, and I think Buehler lines up for the last game. So you might get Flaherty one of the games too. I'm not entirely sure. I have to do the math and look into that, but yeah. Because who are the last 3 games here? We can try and figure this out live if we want to here.
You're better at this than I. I'll just keep looking through stuff here and buying you time here. People saying Soto stays a Yankee.
Well, so it was Bobby Miller went 5 days ago, and we know that's not happening.
Not happening. He just pitched.
Yeah.
He just pitched. And I saw people talking on Twitter about how he looked great. He was striking guys out. And then the debate came up about AAA talent or minor league talent. Translating and all that whole mess, and then I just clicked off. I don't want to talk about it. Bobby Miller, let's look to 2025, buddy.
So I think Flaherty and Knack line up for the first 2 games, and then I think Buehler would be the next one.
Cool with that?
But, yeah.
Cool with that? Yeah, I'm very fine with that. In LA, Michael King, Dylan Cease, Joe Musgrove, very okay with it. It's the part of me that I'm curious to see how the offense performs against those pitchers. I'm curious to see how the rotation and the bullpen handle the Padres offense there. So that's what I'm looking at. GI real quick says, John, thanks for the question, man, as always. GI says, what was the word on Gonsolin's last rehab start? GI, if you're asking about like the line from his start, like he looked terrific. Like he looked awesome. 3 innings, 1 walks, 1, doesn't allow a hit, no hits, no runs. 6 strikeouts, throws 45 pitches there. So very in control of himself. I haven't looked at the pitch usage, I'll be honest, but I will, and I'll do my homework on that one and get back to you. But organizationally, like as Dave commented on that at all, Blake?
Dave, what I heard Dave say is he didn't hear any like reports on Gonsolin yet. He had to talk to the pitching guys and figure it out. But he's going to pitch a bullpen game, and then there's going to be a discussion about or he's going to pitch a bullpen, not a bullpen game. And then there's going to be a discussion about him joining the Dodgers. So seems like he should be back here soon, and he's going to have a chance to make an impact.
Yeah, and I think that, Tony Gonsolin is really, Dave Roberts commented on Tony, is that he's done both. And the versatility there, he's, done work as a starter, as a reliever. And I think the position that he's in, if it's in a relief role, a long relief role, those are the guys that make names for themselves in the postseason. We see it year after year. There's somebody random that comes out of nowhere or somebody you don't expect. I'm not saying it's going to be Tony Gonsolin, but I'm saying it's a name that every year after year with the Rangers, somebody, looking back all through it, and potentially with the Dodgers, there's somebody who's going to have to step up in that role. So Bob says Dave was giddy talking about him. If you're talking about Tony Gonsolin, I'm sure. Yeah. we haven't seen Tony Gonsolin in quite some time. Tony Gonsolin sold his arm to provide the Dodgers with a consistent arm through an entire season, right, Blake? Some people forget all the time about Tony.
Yeah, he pitched through the injury, and the Dodgers called it mutually beneficial. Gonsolin hit his marks to get an extra pay bonus, and the Dodgers had a starting pitcher when last year they didn't have any. So
yeah. And for every, for the jokes that, I like to make about Tony Gonsolin and like the Catman and all that stuff, like he's got some dog in him there. So it's going to be good to see him back for sure. And if his stuff plays, I'm not saying he's going to be perfect, but it's definitely another piece that they could potentially use here. So I'm curious. This piqued my interest, Tony Gonsolin, and what he possibly could be, just because we know he relies on that changeup quite a bit. Big changeup guy. If you can dominate, they'll find a role for you. If you can dominate with one pitch and something that's been consistent, it's definitely something that can be a useful thing. Junsu Kim, appreciate you. $5 super chat here. If you're the Dodgers, do you re-sign Walker Buehler next year? This is an interesting conversation. If so, for how long and how much? And what do you think the Dodgers will actually do? So what do you think they'll actually do? Go from there. What do you think they'll actually do, Blake?
I do think he comes back. I think they've seen enough from him recently where it's going to be a thing where they buy low on him for a year, and like a year, 10 million or something, where they don't really care about that money and they're just willing to keep him around for that. Give him an offseason, try and figure things out, have it be a buy low kind of play. I think Buehler wants to be here because the Dodgers are a pitching factory essentially, and I think he'll see them as the best chance to get his career back on track. We know the Dodgers can never have too many starting pitchers. Even if they enter spring training with 15 of them, they're still going to need to go trade for starting pitching by the trade deadline. So early in the year, I was very confident they wouldn't bring him back at all. I didn't think there was any chance of that. But the way things are trending, the way they talk about him, I think there's a real chance he stays around as their next reclamation project kind of thing, in the lines of Tyler Anderson, Noah Syndergaard, James Paxton type guys, where they didn't always work out, but I think Buehler has the most upside out of all those guys they just named, and I think they're going to try and find a way to keep him around.
Yeah, as far as years and number, he says for how long. Yeah, I think somebody in chat brought it up. It's again, I think it'll be like a 1 year prove it deal. Somebody talked about the qualifying offer. I think they'll extend the qualifying offer to Teoscar Hernandez, and if he leaves, they'll just go elsewhere. I don't know. Can teams make more than one qualifying offer thing? I think is it just one?
A good question. I think they can do multiple.
Okay. All right. Well, different conversation, different time. But I think the qualifying offer for Walker Buehler will be a little too much. I think they can. I looked it up. If you're looking it up, I can't find it. Maybe you can find it faster. But I think it would be like a 1 year prove it thing if they do it. But if he does leave, guys, like Walker Buehler will sign either with the Rays, he'll sign with the Brewers, for sure. It'll be one of those teams where he can work 1-on-1 with the pitching staff in a team that has, very analytically based. That's something Walker Buehler loves. He likes the conversation of it. He likes understanding the metrics. He likes understanding usage, all that jazz that people don't really, like to look too much into, but he will go to one of those teams there. If it's the Guardians, I think I could see that being a case too. TQT says the Giants. Rouse says, what's the pink drink? Pre-workout. We're going to go. It's chest day, baby. Yeah, I forced Blake to get on here a little bit early, interrupted his nap.
But yeah, you can make multiple qualifying offers. The Padres made 2 last year to Snell and Hader. So Dodgers could also, but I don't see Buehler getting one.
Is Walker Buehler a Boris client?
I don't think so, no.
No? Is he? Let me see. If he's I wonder if he's Excel. Let me see. Somebody's gonna put it before me.
He's Casey close.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, he's Excel. So I think Walker Buehler will consider, if the Dodgers will have him, he'll be back. I think that'll be it. He likes being with Los Angeles, but I think that's the case. I know TQT says no. Yeah. I know a lot of people won't want to see him back just because of how it's been. But let me ask you this, guys. James Paxton made every single start. He was there. He wasn't spectacular, but he made every single start. Now, are you asking, like, are innings valuable to you? Is a fifth starter, fourth starter valuable to you? Like, does it matter enough to say he's not what he used to be and he can be in a 4.5 ERA guy? Is it worth it to you? And I think for Walker Buehler to be in a position where you can be with the Dodgers, you're at the back end of rotation. I think a lot of fans would also sign that up. Nostalgia there. He's trying to build his stuff back up there to get a multi-year contract, and it's beneficial to everybody. So I think that's definitely something they'll consider for sure. Yeah, David, innings are important for sure. All right. Ravens, here we go. He drops another super chat, man. You didn't have to do this, but we appreciate it as always. Ben Kasparius is a real person. Who knew?
Scott knew.
I knew. Benny Caps, he's a guy. He's a guy. Like, I know he was getting behind in a lot of counts today. The stuff is big. Stuff plays way up. It's definitely someone I'd like to see get some run there, but you can obviously, like we saw today, the command was off and he can get himself into some trouble there. But I think I'd really like to get him some more exposure. Is that someone you see? Like, do you see him making a postseason roster, or this is a guy that just getting some innings here, seeing some upside? What do you see from Benny Caps?
I'd be very surprised if he's on the postseason roster. Maybe the taxi squad for the postseason, but even that's probably unlikely. They haven't been too willing to use him this year. Like, they were giving the starts to Bobby Miller while he was a mess over Kasparius a chance. So I just don't really see it this year, but going into next year, I think he's a guy who could make an impact for them.
Yeah. TKT, yeah, Kasparius' metrics are insane. His slider is unbelievable. Like, absolutely insane stuff. I just hope he finds some command there because he's looking at his usage. He's like straight 1-2, four seam and slider. So it will have to be, pretty darn good, Matty Man says, for sure. Yes. Like, he came up against the Diamondbacks for that debut, went 1-2-3 here. Today, he goes 3 innings. So interesting arm for sure. But I don't know how much he'll give. I'm still banging a table to see Edgardo in the big leagues and see how that 103, 104 plays. All right. Let's see.
Jonathan's asked this one a lot.
Cool. Sorry, Jonathan. Appreciate you, man. Always spamming this. You're the goat at that. If the Dodgers go and take 2 out of 3 against San Diego, how are we going to feel in the last couple games and going into October? Go ahead. You know my thoughts on Colorado.
Yeah, I'm not going to be happy with them going to Colorado regardless. It's not real baseball up there. It's a circus. Yes.
I love you saying that now.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a mess up there. Nothing matters there. It's not real. If the Dodgers take 2 out of 3 or lose 2 out of 3, doesn't change my outlook on the postseason too much regardless. I keep preaching, like, the regular season doesn't really matter for the playoffs. All you have to do is get in and then you have a chance. And the Dodgers are in. They have their postseason ticket. They can't be knocked out of that. So that's all that really matters. We've seen, like, in 2021, the Padres were dominated by the Dodgers all year constantly. I think the Dodgers won like every game but 2 or 3. And then the Padres came in and won 3 of 4 in the playoffs against the Dodgers. So it just doesn't really matter in the regular season. There's no correlation to it. You just have to go out there and play good baseball in October, and that's really the only thing that matters.
2 of 3 at home against the Padres, and they clinch at home. So that's a cool moment. Fans, that's a cool moment, guys. So I think that even though it's video game baseball, it's MLB The Show on rookie mode that Blake claims that I play in my old age of 31. But I would prefer not to have to deal with it. That's when the offense for sure is going to have to take over. But I'd like them to go 2 of 3 at home if possible. And if that's the case, then the offense came to play. But it's going to be a series. I'm looking at it like I'm eyes glued. I'm definitely eyes glued. So it'll be fun stuff. guys, and chat, any final thoughts on what you're expecting to see against this series of San Diego? Give me your confidence level. Toss your confidence level in there. Blake, I want you to give me a boom or a doom.
We're going with, I don't know. I'm like a 5, so I don't know what side that leans to. A mini boom.
Yeah, GI says hopefully it's a sweep. Just put a scare into San Diego in a 3-game set. We also got to remember, guys, like they go like following the Dodgers playing against the Padres. They go against the Rockies, and then the Padres end the year against the Diamondbacks.
Yeah,
that's a big series. That's a big series. So I think that I really think that it's different sides of the spectrum here. At the end of it, it's the Colorado Rockies, and you should be taking care of business. And it's the San Diego Padres using their big guns against the Dodgers to exactly what TQT says here, just so they don't get swept. I think it's just because they understand that it's the pivotal piece. It's the slope. It's where you saw the Arizona Diamondbacks, where it was that series, remember, where it was like, if all things go wrong, like that could be where the Diamondbacks slide right into the top of the division race. And then you saw them throw their big guns out there. Dodgers end up taking 3 or 4. I think it's the exact same type of scenario. Now it's just very magnified with the magic number being 4. You can end it right there. You can end the division conversation and just look towards the post and not have to worry about Colorado and having to do crazy things in Coors Field there. But I think it's going to be this for all my narrative all year. We know they're going to be solid and good in the regular season. How are they going to perform in these big moments that we can hopefully manufacture in the regular season? They've done it to themselves. The Padres have played themselves into this stuff. So I'm excited. I'm excited as a fan and from where we sit to see a series like this and how they match up. Any final thoughts there, Blake?
No, I think we covered it.
Love it. Chat, we appreciate you as always. Over 1,600 in here, joining across, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. As always, somebody's going to toss in and there it is. Somebody tossed in a super chat at the last second. All right. Just about to do my sign off, but I love this. Junsu Kim, thank you so much. $10. Man, hope you come around some more. Yeah, Laura, I got you guys. As always, thanks for the good questions here. It feels as if the Padres understandably have a huge chip on their shoulders and get more motivated to play the Dodgers than the other way around. Do you see the same phenomenon? If so, any theories? I mean, if you haven't watched Padres games, there is an energy with them. The fans are so engaged in their games. Like it's a different, like I'm not saying that it's a ton of casual fans with the Dodgers, but when the times are bad, the times are just it's quiet. Like it's a very quiet stadium for sure. And I think the Padres have a buzz and when they play at home for sure. And they've definitely got from where the Padres were last year and to where they are this year, it's a completely different thing. To having a player like Xander Bogaerts, who is just, I see Padres fans ripping him a new one all the time, and to have that on their team as one of their highest paid players, and it's just like swept under the rug because they have guys like Luis Arias, Fernando Tatis playing well, Manny Machado's doing his thing, and they found a good group. Jackson Merrill, they're getting role players doing their thing. Jurickson Profar having a career year. There is a different buzz with the Padres, and I think they have that confidence. The front office approached the trade deadline with that confidence, so they made moves, just like we said, the cherry on top moves when you pay for bullpen pieces. And that doesn't happen very often around the league. The Cubs did it in their World Series year. They went out and got the biggest name. So it's definitely they managed at the deadline in this year. Like they felt like they had a very put together team.
Yeah, I definitely think the Padres are a very energetic team and their fan base reflects that. Like some people said in the chat, it is the only sports team they have in San Diego there. So that probably plays into it. And they were really bad for a long time there. And when you're so bad for so long and then you finally have a good team, I think it is going to add more excitement to the fan base. I think Dodger fans were kind of a little spoiled where we're at the point of like, if they don't win a World Series, it doesn't matter at all. Where Padre fans are maybe a little more like, wow, we actually have a chance this year. We had a great season kind of thing. Like just being at this point now is exciting. So yeah. I think that plays into it as well. Like, of course they want to win a World Series too, but it's different expectations for both teams. And Dodger fans, we've seen so many like playoff disappointments in the last few years where we're a little like greedy now and don't always think about like what the Dodgers are doing in the regular season is special, and that other teams would love to have the success that the Dodgers have had over the last 12 years. So we're definitely spoiled as Dodger fans, whereas Padre fans are a little more like fresh to that, and the players as well. So I think that plays into it.
Yeah, I mean it's not in a mean way, but it's like people understand it's like the big brother, little brother thing. You've watched the Dodgers dominate the division for so many years, and then 2 years ago the Padres completely upset the big bad Dodgers again. So now we're looking at a spot where they feel very confident with their team. They've got a good core. They feel they have good pitching. They're guys are generally staying healthy. They look down at their roster and I guarantee you they feel just as confident as any team barreling towards the postseason. You know what I mean? So that's the vibe. So as always, thanks for the super chat, Junsu, and it's going to be, you're going to see that emotion play out. Do not be surprised if you see guys taking chances, guys taking risks. If you see some, Ryle says Dodgers sweep, Lord willing, that's like the ceiling. Ends the series and right there. Game 2, they take 2 of 3, and that's it. So it's going to be a very, contested series here. And I'm excited for it. Same thing, same vibe going into the Arizona Diamondback series. But barring, I'll do this again. I'll try this again. If anybody stops my roll, I'm going to be upset. But I won't be upset. Thank you so much for joining, you guys. We appreciate you. 1650 clipped in here across all social media platforms. Do my buddy Blake a favor. Give him a follow on Twitter. He's a dynamo. Postseason time. He's got a feel for this. He's really analyzed Dodgers postseason baseball year after year and knows the ins and outs of how this organization really works, how they have their decision making and stuff that really can frustrate a lot of people. But it's what they do. It's what they do. They have their way and they have their method. But we appreciate you guys. Take a second, like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. I'm Scott Geirman, senior staff writer, Dodger Blue. Blake Williams, final thoughts. Walk us off.
Get a sweep.
Get a sweep. Get a sweep. Take 2 of 3. Don't worry about video game baseball in Colorado Coors Field. I don't want to see Jake Cave anymore. He's my new Angel Pagan too. All right, guys. We appreciate you. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time. As always, go Dodgers, guys.